That's what that trapdoor spider does. It goes whoosh. All right. Good morning. Good morning. We are live from the hive. It's Saturday morning. Beautiful sunny day here, and it's actually quite warm as well. This cardigan though is not gray. It's green. It's crazy how it looks so gray on the stream, but it's really got quite a like a green screen green. Maybe that's why it's muted. Um, I don't know for sure, but anyhow, good morning to everybody in the side chat here. We got a beautiful audience this morning. We got that's XJack99, Cosmic Kyle, Critical Cupcake here bright and early, along with Godless Granny and Dr. Mordecai Cassius Marcellus Jones, talking about Santa this morning. And we got stool. Yes, there is always cake. I think we're doing carrot cake this weekend. So if you want carrot cake, pop in. Oh yeah, there's my math pig. Good morning, Robbie. Robbie was burning the midnight oil last night, keeping me and Maya entertained. We did a live stream on her. Was her first live stream. She had a panel that turned out like she filled her panel like immediately. It was great, and we got to chatter about random stuff and wash our blues away. Who else do we have? Let's see. I thought I saw Julie. Yeah, we got Sandy. Good morning, doll. Ring is off to work. You drive safe, Ring, or travel safe. I don't know if you drive or not. We got Miss Deep Arcs. Oh yeah. By the way, I want to say that Ring's been putting out some cute little short. Or shooting some cute little short videos my way about well, he's got one for the roast of Kin Ham and things like that. So I may include those in the upcoming streams. I did advise that I am going to start including ads. Those are going to go after the intro slide, and then but before. Okay, yeah, after the intro slide with the loading screen, but before the intro toggle, like the rainy day thing I just did, and then there will be one spot there for an ad each Saturday, and then one spot after the second intermission. So that's how we're gonna do it. Just it seems like the reasonable way to go about it. If I do get a lot though, I will start doing one at each break. So I'll have one at the intro, one at the first intermission, one at the second intermission, and one at the outro. If I get a lot of channels that send me stuff, if you want to send me an ad between, it needs to be between 45 seconds and 2 minutes. If it's between those time frames, that's what I'm looking for. You make yourself a nice little ad. You can email it to the email below. You can inbox me on the Facebook group, The Hive, or any of my various methods of social media. You just send me the link. You can DM it to me in Twitter. My DMs are open in Twitter. Yeah. All right. So that's one thing I wanted to get off the ground, though, is I want to start doing the ads. So it does need to be. It needs to be. It does just need to be. Real quick, it can be. It doesn't have to have. It doesn't have to. It can be. It's like any commercial. It just needs. I need to have your channel information with it. There will be a scroll that's going to go. That's going to go across with all of these. It'll have. It'll have the channels for everybody listed on the scrolling going across there. But for each ad, so I will need your information, whatever you're advertising. It doesn't have to be a YouTube channel. It can be your Etsy store. It can be your your Twitch channel. It can be anything that you want to point an audience your way, or you want to point customers your way. Let me know, especially if it's adjacent to the channel. I would love that. So I am looking to help support the community and run ads on my stream. And I will also try to just get some reasonable ads, and they have to be reasonable. Yeah, right. I understand that, Ring. Absolutely. We will do we will do your holiday themed one. We'll run that as an ad. And yeah, that should probably be on next week's. So be on the lookout for that. What else? Godless Granny has a premiere starting here shortly, so I do understand if there's a dip in viewers. I know a lot of you guys love Granny. Just I go till about noon, so please come back after you go show Kelly some love because she works hard on her edited videos. And we love her. So, and she's always been a friend of the Hive. She had Atheist Junior on with Kitty this last week. It was a fun conversation. I really enjoyed indulging in it. I don't always make it to her stuff, because evenings things come up, but. I do always enjoy popping into Godless Granny and seeing what's going on over there. So if you aren't subscribed to Godless Granny, I need to. Bugbot was originally programmed to tag Godless Granny. So it used to be !GG, but I had to rebuild the commands, and I just haven't got all the tags set up. I've mostly got, unfortunately, I've mostly got the tags for people who are new to the community, they're new to my awareness of the community, or have changed their channel name or their aesthetics to their channel, and I've got those. But people who are still staying the course on their content, like Godless Granny and there's a few others. Ethan comes to mind, your friendly neighborhood atheist. I don't got them updated either. Maybe I did update Tang, because I think I put Oz's link to his album in there. Let me see. I think it's Tang. Let's see if that one works. Yeah, I don't, and that's fine too. Absolutely. I know I do. I know I have 3 screens, and there's never, unless nobody else is streaming something, if I have more than one friend or ally streaming, I will pull them up in both tabs and just alternate back and forth with the audio, or put closed caption on one. Is usually what I'll do, especially if one of them's a live video and one of them's a recorded video. I'll put closed caption on the recorded video and have the live video feeding me. I need a lot of sensory, especially when I'm working. Surprisingly, I need a lot of audible stimulation. I like to have either something in my other ear when I got my headset on, or just something playing on my computer because it helps me work. I guess there's a lot of people like that. All right, so that's housekeeping for the day. Yeah, holidays are coming up. I'm not gonna beat the drum too much on that though, because as we all know that when it comes to Saturdays in this holiday season, we have 4 more to go. So I'm not going to make this one too much about it. There will be a slight holiday theme to the Hive in the coming weeks. We're going to slowly decorate. So look for things like elf hats on my bugs, and more holiday thumbnails and stuff like that. So yes, please stick around for that. I am so happy to have such a friendly and engaging audience. So CryptoCorner it hasn't changed what we're covering. I just switched which video I'm covering because oh my gosh, this one gets really good. But the channel I'm covering is going to be quite something to see. So let's slide on over, shall we, to CryptoCorner. right, welcome to Cryptic Corner, a dark little space in the hive where we talk about things unknown. So today we have well, we kind of had a running theme going on here for a little bit, and today we may deviate from that a bit, but not by design, just by chance, because we have I don't know how to describe it, a conspiracy channel, a mystery channel. These people are clearly, and this could have easily fallen into Creation Watch, which if anybody's a fan of the channel will notice that that's kind of a running theme, is that young earth creationist people and bizarre cryptic belief people are kind of neck and neck, and they're often intertwined in their communities. And today we're talking about Quest for Tartaria, which is a channel that I'll pull up, and well, I'll go ahead and pull it up now. Let's see. Here we are. And they are, I don't know if I would call them a cryptozoology channel. They do cover cryptozoology, clearly, which, I mean, we are going to get into momentarily, but they they cover so much more than that. They cover all the stuff that we love here in the hive, and I don't want to oversell this. So the first video that we see that comes up here, Quest for Tartaria, they're using the AI generated images from circulation that we did in a full covered in-depth review of just a few weeks back. And I think that that's scheduled for, when is my video on that scheduled for release? Hold on here. Let's see. No, not live. We want to see Cryptic Corner. It might still be a ways out. No, it released. It premiered November 4th. So November 4th, it's called The Lost City of Dolly 2. That was the video I did on these. On this little weird little dinosaur looking picture here. This one right here. Everything on here that says Isaac Middleton on it, or Alfred Isaac Middleton, is regarding this AI created story and slideshow of images, of bizarre images. And a lot of these crypto channels are doubling down on these being real evidence. And I am Paleo Locos. Hey, it's good to see you, my friend. I loved your Nadali cave video. It was amazing. Like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna derail for a second, just to fangirl over Peter here, because he did this video on the caves that the Nadal. I'm gonna mispronounce the name. How do you say Nadali? Yeah, that these Homo sapien, or not Homo sapien. I'm going way off the rails. Hominoid bones were found in this, way back in this cave system, and there's they had a fire back there. They had little bones of creatures that they were cooking. It was and little, like, if I was understanding it correctly, and I've looked into this before, that they had little burning waypoints to direct them and guide them back to the part of the cave. It was freaking great. So keep up the good work on that, Peter. Yeah, please. You guys can lightly poke Peter. Peter is a creationist, so yeah, I don't mind a little spice back and forth in the live chat. But please be respectful, because Peter is a friend of mine, and we have a good relationship. And I like having people in the Christian community, in the young Earth creationist community, even, or in the old Earth creationist community. I'm not picky. Allies in that community, that we can lean on, and that we can help us help us pick apart some of their thought processes. So keep up the good work. And yes, Paleologos, thank you, Sandy. Sandy is a fantastic mod, by the way. Good morning, Godseed. I'm glad to see you here. And we had John Hudson pop in as well. Don't want to leave anybody out. If I missed you in the side chat, Ian Davenport, I missed you, and I love the pride flags. Pride and Ian Davenport, a wonderful ally. But let's get back over to Tartaria, because that's what this guy is all about. Now, his quest for Tartaria doesn't really go much into Dolly 2. These are just, he started off just doing these really short stuff, but Tartarian Road in Arizona, apparently. I think this is probably an old wagon trackway, but we may explore that at some point. But we got giant trees. We've been there. We got, oh, look, the Suicide of Saul with the dino camels. Yeah, we got mud fossil stuff. We've got lost continent stuff. We got biblical stuff. Giant trees is you know, something that I find absolutely fascinating. They go on treasure hunts here. Look, so this is a channel worth picking apart. Obviously, mud fossils have been done recently, so I'm not going to dive into mud fossils. What I'd originally meant to dive into was this book of Tartaria, right? And I shared this with, I have this this private little exclusive club, let's call it, called the Swarm on Twitter, and they help me, and Swarm members, you know who you are out there. They help me to pick out what I do each week. They are an amazing group of individuals I could not run this show without. So thank you to the Swarm. They are production support. They are content support. They're even joke support. I get memes and stuff from these people to put up between takes and things like that. So they help support the Hive. They're like active members of the Hive, basically, even if whether or not they're a patron or anything like that. So, thank you, Swarm. I actually bounced this off of them because what he's done here is take a, well, I can show this real quick. I don't mind. That's not the right video. I don't mind starting with this, and this is why I picked this, because we were in Antarctica, right? Visiting Antarctica. And this starts off perfect, right?
Dark rocks called nunataks appear above the ice. Then rugged mountain ranges as far as the eye can see. Bunger leans forward in amazement. His eyes have caught an unbelievable.
This is, if you don't know what this is, we're hearing and listening to and seeing a thrown together video clip of. This is Admiral Byrd's tale, his fantastic tale of what happened to him in Antarctica when he was doing the flyover, when he was he part of was it Deep Freeze, Operation Deep Freeze, where they started doing missions into and over the Antarctica tundra and wasteland below. I would love to get monetized. I would absolutely love that. It would make the dedication I put into this feel like it amounted to something. So yeah, I would totally be into that. Morning, Regios, Scott Duke. It's good to see ya. Got all kinds of cool people. Tubi, and yes, this dude does mud fossils. But mainly what I wanted to talk about, and yeah, we're not going to get into this. This may be our climax for the month, is doing the Admiral Byrd, but I got to find somebody who has a good presentation on it that I can actually sink my teeth into, but we'll see. What I was really getting into with this gentleman is that he has like a wild notion about these images from the bestiaries of old. This one is actually quite famous, and so I don't know why he's like, this is a secret book, because the way he describes it, let's Let's see. Here's a secret book in the library in New York. You can view it online. So it's secret, but you can view it online. It is filled with undiscovered animals and creatures. Maybe the events in the Book of Enoch are earlier than we were led to believe. Are the Watchers still chained underneath the earth by angelic chains? Admiral Richard E. Byrd, discovered land in Antarctica comparable to New Mexico or Arizona. Like and subscribe. Yeah, there's the link to Admiral Byrd video. I might grab that at some point in the future. Chained Angels. Book of Tartaria in your local library. Now, if you click on it, it takes you out to Historia Naturalis. It's a very, very famous bestiary, one of the earliest modern attempts to present some accurate zoology. Before this, bestiaries were allowed to be fanciful and full of myths and monsters, but this one too is full of myths and monsters. It kind of toes that line, but it does give a lot of scientific names that, well, not all of them stuck. Obviously, we don't have all of these organisms in the animal kingdom anymore. There's a lot of, like here, look, you got the jackalope. So obviously this is filled with both animals that are real and exist in reality, and animals that come to the ears of the artist via various traveler tales and probably from other bestiaries or pre-existing bestiaries as well. So this gets really wild and really into it. Look at this guy. It's like long-necked sloth here. Isn't that wild? The way that they project these organisms. Look at this. Look at these. Here's a monkey. Look at, they give an impression that its tail is like serpentine. I think this is supposed to be some sort of procyanod. We will go back and look at this bestiary sometime in the future. Okay, it's definitely in the deck, and we maybe revisit this as we move through different cryptids and stuff that come up, because a lot of cryptids are based on old bestiary depictions like this. That's where they find their origins at. But yes, we will someday revisit this site, but we're not going to do that today. That was originally the plan. That was originally planned to review this video for today's show. It's about half an hour long. Nope. What we're actually going to do is another video of his. So that was what brought me here, though, because I do want to explore that. And to make it out like this is some forbidden knowledge is pretty wacky, in my opinion, because it's a very famous piece of written history. It's like, I think it was one of the earliest. It's famous for being one of the earliest of something. Hold on, it's going to drive me crazy if I don't look it up. No, I'm not going to do it live on camera. We'll revisit it. When I talk about it next time, I'll have more of the facts and details in mind. I just don't have that in the front of my head right now, because I got all the stuff to respond to this in the front of my head. And do you guys like dinosaurs? Because I love dinosaurs. I think everybody here knows that, though. Who doesn't? Who didn't? If you're in the side chat and didn't know I like dinosaurs, it's time that you learn. All right. So we are going to definitely be talking about dinosaurs today, because this is a video about a living T-Rex in Australia. And actually, let me blow this up, because I think I can do a full screen on this. Let's see here. Make it a little more visually appealing, right? So let me Pop that up. Do 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 do. Living T-Rex. All right, here we go. We got an FBI warning. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures. So that means that they're going to be using some visual stuff. But you know what? We're doing that to you. So I'm glad you understand, Mr. Tartaria.
Welcome to Quest for Tartaria. In this episode, we will explore the bonjour.
I can't hardly hear him.
Breathing Australian T-Rex. Check it out, guys.
Country up at Corumba on the Gulf.
I'm going to restart it because I couldn't hardly hear him. There we go.
Greetings, fellow explorers and my brothers and sisters of Tartaria. Welcome to Quest for Tartaria. In this episode, we will explore the bonjour.
Let me know if you guys can hear
it's
it.
a living, breathing Australian T-Rex. Check it out, guys.
Gulf country up at Corumba on the Gulf of Carpentaria. I found 2 years ago with Heather, and this creature had walked through a paddock during the night and walked across a little dry sandy creek about a couple of metres wide, and there were a couple of tracks there, and I only had enough plaster for one anyway, but I took photos and slides and it didn't come out too good, but I got this. And
Wow, that is a massive footprint. I am impressed by that. I don't think it's from a living T-Rex, something like that size, living undetected in Australia, where it's, unless it's, seeing something that big wouldn't do good in a dense region, a dense forested region, because it'd be too big to move about. But if it lived in Australia in the open land, yeah, the megafauna is kind of hard to keep hidden. Megafauna the size of a T-Rex, which, you know, it can exceed, 4 meters at the shoulder, I believe. Yeah, I can't fathom how they think that something like that could remain hidden and we wouldn't see, because of the calories that something that big would need to sustain itself would be representative in the ecological studies of the area. And Australia gets a lot of ecological studies because it's a unique biome, right? It's very it's loud enough now. Okay. It's very unique and isolated too, so we can make a lot of inferences on how ecological structures work and how we can do more like independent surveys of different factors. Because when we study evolution and when we study how organisms interact with each other and how biomes change and grow over time, there's a lot of bisecting of different schematics. So you might do a survey to, like, oh, how much of this pollen is found in this possum's fur in the months of September. You might do a survey on that. And that's just a new data set that you throw onto this gigantic grid of corroborating evidence that is ecological and is, has practical application, is ecologically driven, and demonstrates evolution in real time. It has practical application, right? So, yeah, people denying evolution kind of makes me scratch my head. But this guy is saying that a megafauna, a predatory megafauna nonetheless, is stomping around the Australian outback undetected. Before, what did they eat before? Because I know we brought cattle and there's camels and things like that live in Australia now. Even I think a camel would give a T-Rex a run for its money, though. A camel can be a pretty fierce critter. T-Rex might be able to bite, but a camel sure can bite too. I've seen a camel pick up a donkey and throw it. They don't mess around. Anyway, let's get back to the video. We're only 45 seconds in and I'm yammering and yammering.
that convinces me Burrinjaw exists. Burrinjaw is a giant bipedal reptilian creature in Aboriginal folklore.
Paleologa says all Australian sheep herders should know. LOL. Yeah, right. It'd be that scene from Jurassic Park. Oh, that was a goat though. Yeah, but it'd be like that. It'd be like, what happened to the sheep?
It can't be a giant lizard standing on two legs like some monitors are known to do, you know, when they've been seen running.
Sir, you don't. Okay. Calling this a giant lizard footprint is quite telling of how much thought you've put into this proposition, because lizards do not have the three-toed feet that you're showing here. Lepidosaurs do not have three toes. They diverged from Archosaurs well before theropods went down this digit reduction route that they did. Lepidosaurs, lizards and snakes, and their allies like the tuatara and things like that aren't quite lizards or snakes. And there are a lot more extinct species too, amazing creatures like mosasaurs. But I will digress and step back for just a moment and advise that giant monitor lizard cryptids are already present in the cryptozoological folklore of the outback, but they would not have three-toe footprints like this.
So he's got 3 toes and not 5. That makes him something like, well, people would naturally think of a Tyrannosaurus, and it's along that line, but who's to...
Or a giant duck, because it doesn't look like it has like pointed toes. I don't know.
Say that they're not around. Still, the golf...
Judging by the size of that last footprint, guys, that beast must have been at least 20 feet tall. That's as big as Rexy in the Jurassic Park series.
Right.
In this video right here, the Aborigine people go out because there's some unidentified prints in the sand. So I did a little bit of reading on this. So they get out there and...
Can we classify MAGA as a subset of megafauna? Magafauna. I get it. Play on words. Well, yeah, and the Tyrannosauroids. What was the Tyrannosaurid presence in Australia? I don't think that there was ever Tyrannosaurs in Australia. Maybe I could be wrong. I know that U.S. we had, of course, the famous Tyrannosaurus Rex, Dilophosaurus, Nunuchosaurus, which is my favorite Tyrannosaur because I like the polar bear depiction. But I don't think that there were Tyrannosaurs in Australia. Let's see. Theropods, and yeah, I got this just pulled up on another screen. Cretaceous, because that's when the big boys were around. So what was the dominant theropod in the Cretaceous of Australia? Because it's weird that they're calling, because Australia, for most of the Mesozoic, it was connected and included Antarctica and South America and Australia all together in one supercontinent. Oh yeah, Madagascar and India, Africa was connected for a little bit too. Let's see. Just trying to get some species information here. Australian theropods. Let's see here. Late Cretaceous, Australian theropods. Let's see, there's Tyrannosauropus. Let's look and see what that sucker looks like. Yeah. And there's Scardopus. All right. Get some facts on it. Is it a Tyrannosauroid? So I'm willing to say, oh man, I was wrong about that. There were Tyrannosaurids, and this says it's a hadrosaur, which is not a carnivore, and its toe prints certainly don't look like Here, let me share it. I got this guy paused over here, and I'm searching, and yeah, there. So, oh, you can't even see that side of it anyway. Over here, it classifies it as a hadrosaur. But yeah, you can see if we look. There we go. Yeah, it's because they were suggested originally to be made by Tyrannosaurus. That's in Utah, though. Why is it saying this is... I don't know. Anyway, this isn't even from Australia either. My bad. All right, let's continue on because we only have so much time to cover.
They've been trying to show the colonists and the people in Australia that these creatures exist, and they've existed for a long time. And what you have to understand is Australia is barely inhabited by humans. I mean,
that's kind of a misrepresentation. Australia's interior is barely populated by humans. That's because it's fairly inhospitable. But they do have some of you guys out there. I don't know. Do I have any Aussies in the chat here? Yeah, there's cities and stuff in Australia, my friend. It's not a lost continent with just little tiny populations of indigenous people or anything.
It's just a very minuscule area along the coastline. You could even look into it. The most of Australia is a vast wilderness.
Well, and that's any continent, by the way. Most, like 85% of the population lives within 20 miles of the coast or something like that. We are a species that like coastal waters.
And if you compare Australia to the United States, you'll see that Australia is...
That's what I was saying, Ring, that Gondwanaland had their own groups of theropods with like what they call abelosauruses. I was checking to see which abelosauриds live in Australia. I started going down a rabbit hole, and you all don't tune in to watch me research. I did not pre-watch this because I like to be surprised by some of these and learn about them on the way. But if I don't know the information, I'm not going to pretend I do. But I do welcome you and anybody else in the side chat to drop factoids as we move along. So if somebody wants to tell us in the Hive what the largest theropod in Australia was during the Cretaceous, and we're talking like late Cretaceous, I guess, because they're talking about Tyrannosaurids. So I mean, that was the up to the end.
Enormous. And in Queensland, they see this creature in the swamps, and it's just not a hospitable place for humans. And the creatures seem like they don't really mess with humans either. And
they see it in the swamps. So this would be a large animal, though. Yeah.
So yeah, that's why we haven't had like, people going up missing because the Borgia ate them or whatnot. I'm sure there's other cryptids out there that may, have a go at people. But oh yeah, check this out, guys. We're about to get really, really good.
I just look at what they're filming here as footprints, and I just want to say, oh honey, this is not a footprint. That is, it's made by water though. It's a ripple. There's the way the shadow's hitting it is giving it that impression. And you'll see that a lot in like Bigfoot photos and like the Paluxy River footprints that you have to hit them you get the shadows just right, and they will look like a footprint. But yeah, this is a ripple. There's 1, 2. Let's see, 1, 2. I should have saturated this so you could see it. Again, shoulda, woulda, coulda. And remember, I was planning on doing the bestiary till I saw this on when I went to his channel, because I'm like, I always like when I do a new channel, I like to pull up their main stuff so you can kind of get an idea. Thank you, Paleo Logos. Oh, and you got ring dropping Australovenator. Most theropod fossils from Oz are too fragmentary to name as a species for certain. What is Australovenator? How do you say that? Australovenator. I'm gonna go with that. Australovenator. What clade is that? Is it a abelisaur, or is it a cellulosaur? Assuming it's not like a Maniraptoran. Now that might be footprints of something. But it doesn't look like it would be a theropod, though. It almost... Big three. So what I'm seeing here, let's see, 3 toes in the front and sort of a paw on the back. I'm wondering if this isn't a macropod, a small macropod that is... Okay, bear with me on this, and this is just a theory, but let me rewind it to one of the bigger ones. Not these ones, because these ones are clearly just ripples. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm wondering, and again, just a theory on this, if this isn't a macropod that is sitting on its haunches and bounding. So this would be the tail, where the tail pushes into the sand to kick it off the ground. This here and this here are either foot on either side of, this is where the body presses into the ground as it leaps forward. Let me see. Macropod tracks. And when I say macropod, if anybody doesn't know what I mean, macropod is like kangaroos and wallabies and that family of organisms. So I'm going to pull over a more defined trackway where we see that a macropod, a known macro, oh damn it, Shutterstock's over top of it. Let me see here. This is what we'll do. Yeah. Okay, so, and I'm just pulling this, shooting from the hip on this too. So, hold on, go back. I didn't mean to play that. All right, hold on. Where's my macropod track? I dropped it. No, I can't find it. There it is. All right. Let me know if that looks all right for you guys. We just want to see the trackway. Yeah, so this is a, it won't let me get any closer to it. Sorry guys, I thought I'd be able to blow it up. But this is a, let me see, maybe if I open it in its own window, open image in new tab. Yeah, there we go. All right, so this is a macropod trackway. Okay, so if we look at that, you have these 3 streaks that run behind them when they hop through sand. It's because they move in bounds, right? And something like this the kangaroo or macropod moving, not the way that it looks like if you're looking at these as toes, but moving this way, moving downward, or yeah, downward, yeah, and other way downward. Sorry, forget my camera's mirrored. So no, downward. There we go. Anyway, draw the correlation, right? Right here you have the kangaroo, and right there you have. And I'm not saying for sure. It's just my theory. This is a kangaroo traveling in the opposite direction. Let's move on though. Right. Even if it was a footprint, it looks like a three-toed paw print more so than a theropod track, right? And that one definitely looks like a macropod print there. Dinosaurs did not have paws. They did have toe pads, but I mean anything that walks on feet has toe pads, but they weren't like a three-toed tiger paws, which is what this would give you the impression of. Again, the more they show of these, the more convinced I am that these are macropod trackways. With the hind legs and the tail forming the three toes, and then where the kangaroo pushes with its front, because they do like a thing where they push with their front paws, is their, yeah, where they, so they're, so where they kind of put their forepaws between their hind legs and go back towards their tail. So, you know, as they move along these points, they're going to have more pressure on the front limbs as they hold, because it's putting all their weight on, balancing all their weight over just their little paws held together in the middle and the front of them. So that's going to be a lot deeper of an indentation than where the feet and the tail lie. So you're going to have a deeper pocket where the heel was on the footprint, because that's where the kangaroo's forepaws are pushing down. And then you're going to have the lighter spots where the hind feet and the tail were resting, where the weight of the animal was distributed more evenly, that are lighter and look like toe prints. And so it's a kangaroo trackway or a macropod trackway. It's not all macropods are kangaroos, but those are the most common that people think about. But patty melons are smaller, and there's everything from the size of a like a house cat to the size of a big red kangaroo, which is like a deer. So they have a spectrum. So they're gonna be all sizes of these trackways all over the place. Yeah. Anyway, let's keep going. Again, more looking like a paw because of the way macropods move. And the more they show, the more convinced I am that I'm correct. If you look at these as a kangaroo moving in the opposite direction that they're presenting here, with its tail, hind legs, and feet, yeah. Because it's definitely not how theropod footprints would look. I like the intense music that's playing though. But I might speed this up through this. At least till he starts talking again, because all this is them showing us these tracks. I wonder if these guys know I can't hardly hear. I mean, that's not on my end. That's
Native Australians have been talking about the Bourgeois or Borinjor for a very long time, before even the discovery of dinosaur bones. And I mean, I believe a lot of these cryptids out there, especially when they have native names, you know, they are worth looking into. And a lot of modern controllers, they don't want us to know that these things exist. They want to make us live in this industrial revolution.
and know that these things exist. That you haven't shown anything that exists. These trackways are not the evidence that you think they are, my friend.
World instead of this magical, amazing world that we actually live.
That's what I was gonna say, Ring. I wonder if these guys that are going out there and making these videos, if they know what those because again, I'm fairly convinced, and I absolutely welcome any argument from anybody, any counter that what we are looking at there are indeed macropod trackways in the sand. If you disagree with me and you have a better narrative that you think that is, I think that's generally, when it comes to Australian theropods, that's the long and short of it. But absolutely disagree with me.
Live in. My real question is, after doing this study, was how big is Australia? I mean, it's only colonized on the outskirts, but I mean, how big is it really?
Because this guy, I think, is definitely doesn't buy into what we know about the Earth. I don't know if he's a flat earther, but he definitely has ideas about the layout and geography of the Earth that differ from the observed geography. After reading Rex Gilroy's book on Borinjor as a long shot, I honed in. Should I be honed in? Like, I gotta be honed in using Google Earth on one of the areas it's been seen in. Oh my goodness, the black betta. This blurry image is a T-Rex seen from space in Australia. Oh,
Another cryptid that is allegedly roaming around in Australia. This creature is described as a giant lizard with small clawed hands. It's 20 to 25 feet long and 20 foot tall, and
obviously he's sampling somebody else's video on this.
Is bipedal. Very similar to that of a T-Rex. And due to the fact that there are a lot of reported sightings, and it's even in the Aboriginal...
Yeah, right, exactly. The zoological garden that has a living dinosaur, that captures a living dinosaur and has it on display, especially a large one, they're going to be rolling in the money.
mythology, some believe that it might actually exist somewhere in Australia. And Australia is a continent with a very low population, and most people do live near the water. So, although extremely unlikely, but it's possible that there could be a large unknown animal still hiding from us there. One famous encounter happened in the 1950s when cattle ranchers spotted large three-toed tracks in their fields. And these ranchers, well, they were kind of freaked out by this because they had never seen...
Which we've gone over just a moment ago. I'm going to speed this up. This almost sounds like a voice to text thing. Yeah.
Any tracks like this before. And at this time, their livestock did start to go missing, and they discovered a half-eaten cow. And they believed that whatever animal made these huge tracks was responsible for killing this cow, and most likely all the others that had disappeared never to be seen again. This story sounds almost identical to my last video about the megalania, in regards to people finding large tracks and half-eaten cows in their fields. But there is one huge difference. The megalania has 5 toes, not 3. And I would like to thank my subscribers for pointing that out to me. Another very similar case happened in 1980, when ranchers believed something big was still in the cattle, big enough to pick them up and carry them off. At first, these ranchers thought that it must be crocodiles, but one of them claimed that he saw a 20-foot-tall monster carrying a cow in his jaws. And this man, scared to death, ran as fast as he could and he hid behind a bush. And because so many ranchers were losing cattle at this time, they were fed up. So 20 of them got together in hopes of finding and killing this monster. But when they...
Wouldn't it be awesome to be on like a Australian outback dinosaur hunting team going out into the outback? That was my Muldoon from well, I guess he's South African, isn't he? From Jurassic Park. I think Muldoon was South African, but in the first movie. But maybe he was Australian. I can't remember for sure. But dinosaur hunting guy from the first Jurassic Park. Clever girl, that guy.
Reached the river, their dogs started to act strange, and then they ran away. Then the horses just stopped. They would go no further. So the ranchers, a little bit freaked out by this, decided to call it off. And while they were walking back to their ranch, they did see some large three-toed tracks. Now, about a week or so later, these attacks on their cattle stopped, so they figured that this animal, whatever it was, must have moved on. Another sighting happened in 1957 when ranchers saw all their cattle just start to act crazy one night. And while they're
This is, yeah, I don't know how much longer I'm gonna let this play.
looking around wondering what the heck was scaring them,
if it's just gonna be this, because it's like what he's got clipped into here is like a Watch Mojo or Top Tens or something like that video where like some editing team just throws together and then they hire a voiceover guy to read a script.
saw one of their team members running and screaming at the top of his lungs in the distance, followed by what appeared to be a very large creature. Now, since it was night, they didn't get a very good look at it, but the next day they did find out that some of their cattle had been ripped to shreds and eaten. Another story happened in 1978 when a man who was herding cattle in a very remote area got lost for 3 days. And while he was missing, 2 Aboriginal trackers, along with a couple policemen, were looking for him. And during the night, the 2 Aboriginal trackers woke up the policemen and told them that they need to leave now. And as the policemen were getting up, they noticed that the ground was shaking, and these 2 trackers looked scared. Something very big was walking nearby. And this just scared them to death, so they got the heck out of there as fast as they could. And while they were running away, they did hear strange sounds, such as grunting and breathing. Now, if this policeman who came forward with a story is telling the truth, it does make me wonder, how big would an animal need to be?
Well, I mean, that's sort of yeah. You heard something, and there were some vibrations. I'm not going to make a claim as to know what it could have been, but I don't understand why you would jump right to, oh, it's a Tyrannosaur. It's going to be...
If it could shake the ground when it's walking. Now, according to this article, there have been many reported sightings over the years. In 1961, a man reported seeing a 25-foot-tall bipedal reptilian creature. In 1922, there was a mass sighting from ranchers who reported seeing a huge bipedal monster with a crocodile-like tail. Then in 1982, there was another sighting of a bipedal creature that looked exactly like a dinosaur, but it was only about the size of a man. Then in 1961, a group of hunters claimed that they saw a huge monster that looked exactly like a T-Rex during a dust storm. A very famous case happened in 1985 when a family claimed that while they were driving in a very remote area, they saw a 20-foot-long monster covered in feathers. And there are many, many more sightings.
So did it have feathers? Was it reptilian and crocodilian? All these features that they're attributing to this animal are contradictory to have, because you have people that are reporting it like a old-timey dinosaur, grunting like a mammal. Because the vocalizations that I've heard some vocalizations that allegedly what a Tyrannosaur was supposed to have sounded like. They mostly sound like, well, I guess they do sound like rumbling, I guess. I don't know if I'd call it grunting. And that's just speculation on how long of notes that it held and all that, because it could have, and there's other methods of communication as well. Archosaurs have a lot of unique characteristics. Now, crocodiles and alligators, they do make rumbling sounds and growl. I don't know how close they were to the water when this sighting took place, but a crocodilian would definitely be something to be concerned about. It would rumble and growl and maybe make hissing sounds as well.
Which is amazing. And what I find fascinating about this case is that these creatures are in the native mythology. According to them, they have been living side by side with them for thousands of years. And there are many cave paintings of what appear to be an animal that looks exactly like a T-Rex. Now, it is believed that the T-Rex only lived in North America and Asia. But in 2010, archaeologists made an amazing discovery. They discovered that there was once a dinosaur that is a cousin of a T-Rex that did live in Australia millions of years ago. And it is known by the locals as the Australian T-Rex. And it perfectly fits the description of all these sightings, which is mind-blowing. It is rare to cover a case that has so many sightings over the years, making me wonder, could a large dinosaur that once roamed Australia millions of years ago still exist to this very day?
The Borinjor. Honestly, my mind was blown by the footprints in the sand. But guys, can you imagine? Yes, of course we can. We should check out the Tartaria map also to see what's on it.
The Borinjor is allegedly a large theropod-like animal reported from the Australian outback. Most Borinjor sightings tend to be thought of as things that have happened close to 40 years ago, 40 to 50. Certainly nothing more recent than, say, the 1980s or 1970s. However, speaking of my Borinjor video, I've had the opportunity to come across far more recent reports. Granted, it is only 2 of them, but they're very interesting, and the fact that they've been shared anonymously with nothing really to gain certainly may be considered significant. In order to help relay these newer reports, I've put together this video and asked my good friend and colleague, Nate Brislin, to help narrate these reports. If you'd like to read them yourself, they can be found in the comment section of my Behringer video, which again is worth a watch if you want to know more about the actual subject itself. All this video will cover is these new reports, which will now be read off. Make what you will of the following. The first report is a more general one, coming from the late 90s, and involves a second-hand story.
Okay.
When I was about 1, me and my family went on a long vacation and tour of Australia, late 90s. When we reached the Cairns in Queensland, on one day out with the group, we went into a rainforest park up in the Highlands. One of the guides
Your
told us about
background music is way too loud for your audio.
That walked on its back legs. The Aboriginals also said that they were aware of a creature in the jungle, the body of a kangaroo, but the head and skin of a crocodile. Sounds like a dinosaur to me.
While the first was more vague, this second story is far more specific, and although anonymous, entails much more than the first did.
A friend of mine who lives in Australia saw a Behringer in 2014. I'm going to share her story anonymously. He had just bought a farm and moved his family out of the suburbs. He was out looking for a sheep that had escaped and came across a T-Rex wading in a creek. He watched it drink for about a minute until the creature started sniffing about in his direction and grunting agitatedly. He fled immediately, fearing that it had noticed him and would attack. This event scared him.
All these lay people that are identifying this as a T-Rex, can we just say large theropod people? You don't have to every large theropod is not a T-Rex. T-Rex was one species and one genus of one family of, yeah, when it comes to theropods, I know T-Rex is the poster child, but just because it's the biggest doesn't mean that every one that you see in media and pop culture or in the Australian outback is a T-Rex. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave that there.
So bad that he sold the farm, packed up his family, and returned to the suburbs. He had been so excited to get out of just a few months before. His wife was extremely confused and angry about the whole situation, and eventually threatened to leave him and take their children if he didn't explain what was wrong. Finally, he told her what he saw, and that it had terrified him imagining what would happen if the creature came across his children who loved wandering the property when not doing chores, or his wife who often went out on her own to do work in the remote areas of the farm. His wife was part Aborigine, and instead of saying he was on drugs or lying like he expected, was only mildly surprised. She told him that native Australians have known about them forever and seen them more often than people would believe, but simply don't mention Behringers because white people call them crazy. She was more shocked that one had come so close to their house because they avoided humans whenever possible. They're still married and living in a suburban neighborhood to this day, and he still refuses to go near the area of their former property. I'm not sure if I believe the Behringer, but I do believe something scared my friend so badly, he dropped his lifelong dream, gave up thousands of dollars, and moved his family over 200 kilometers to get away from it.
Those are some truly amazing YouTubers and truthers. You'll find them on YouTube. I'll leave a link in the description.
I don't know that they're truthers. Let me see who your sources are here for these videos. He said he's leaving them in the comments here, but I guess maybe he didn't. Oh, there's a playlist that he's using here. Okay, I got you, friend. But I don't think that first one sounded like a Watch Mojo kind of thing. So I don't know if that one was a truther or just somebody, a content farmer.
Now let's check out Australia. Okay. We are busting out the Tartaria map.
The Tartaria
of course,
map.
China area, and I think that's Japan, and of course the Philippines area. But what I found really interesting is down here. I mean, if this is Australia, then it was way bigger. If this is Australia, and where I'm thinking it's Australia is because the old camels were imported into Australia, to fit the narrative, but there's already camels on this map. Creatures that are living in the trees.
Wait, though, hold on. That said Nova.
Camels were imported into Australia, to fit the narrative.
Dropped his lifelong dream.
Okay, we are busting out the Tartaria map.
Wait, see where it says Nova Guinea right here? First of all, yeah, this is not going to be Japan. If let's look at his map. We're gonna let him show us.
And
I'm gonna slow it down though because I want to go over all the things that are wrong here. So
I'll leave a link in the description. Now let's check out Australia. Okay, we are busting out the Tartaria map, and this is of course China.
That's China
area.
So Japan would not be over here. This would be like, there's Borneo. It says right there, Borneo. We got Taiwan there. And some of these are going to be old-timey names, but that's definitely Borneo. And that's where Borneo would be located. This is not Japan. Japan would be totally on the other side of China. It would be up over here, and it would be beside China up there, not underneath it. So that does mean that this island that we're looking at, and when he scrolls down here,
and I think that's Japan. And of course the Philippines area. But what I found really
This would be New Guinea. Even there it says New Guinea, Nova Guinea. Nova meaning new, and Guinea, New Guinea. That's what
interesting
we're
is down here.
looking at.
I mean, if this is Australia, then
Nope,
it was
not
way
Australia.
bigger. If this is the Australia, and where I'm thinking it's
But I find it interesting that they have what is clearly... is this Homo floresiensis up here then? I think they're supposed to be the native people of New Guinea. And the fact that you have primates and camelids there. Kind of... Because you don't see any marsupials here. And, you know, there's deer. Deer don't live in Australia, but giant monitor lizards do water monitors. Deer in New Guinea. Let's see what species of deer New Guinea have. Obviously, they have the birds, right? Like that's what comes up. Is it gives me rheas and stuff, but let me see. As far as mammals, monotremes they have monotremes and marsupials. They have placental mammals, rodents. We have deer, microbats. Okay, we have domestic dogs and domestic cattle. They actually have their own species of wild dog called the New Guinea singing dog. Polynesian rats, there we go. 3 species of deer have been introduced to New Guinea. The russet deer is the most common and well established. It is found throughout the south of New Guinea. The other 2 species are the chatal and the fallow deer. Fallow deer were introduced in a lot of the world, but so presumably this map was made after some colonization when we've introduced some deer, if that's what we're looking at right here.
Australia is, you know, they say, oh, camels were imported into Australia, you know, to fit the narrative, you know, but there's already camels on this map.
This is in Australia.
Creatures that are living in the trees.
It's New Guinea.
Griffin kind of creatures here too.
Yep.
All kinds of different creatures. Let's see if we can find
Traveler
any
tail monsters.
hidden creatures that just might have survived. Got your lion and griffin fighting here. And you got your serpent and your giant yeti fighting down here too.
Mm-hmm.
But looks like grasslands and trees.
Right.
Cyclops.
A cyclops.
Okay, first off, there's this.
Yeah, I think
Looks
that could be a water monitor, maybe. There's also some very large, gorgeous snakes.
Some kind of
in the
serpent,
area. Yeah.
serpent creature.
Ooh, there's a lady riding a dragon down there in the water.
Something that, some kind of elk or deer that swims in the sea.
Or it swims across the sea, and it's supposed to be a representation of an animal they saw crossing a strait between 2 islands.
Some strange creatures.
Yeah. There are some strange creatures.
Going to
I
the
don't
oasis
disagree.
here.
But this isn't Australia.
I mean, are those dodo birds? There's that.
But
There's
this-
emus, and I believe that's what's in Australia.
That's probably a cassowary.
Oh yeah, I mean, maybe these creatures were indigenous to the area. Serpent. There's a serpent with only two legs, which is interesting. Camel. All right, we're back here again.
You know, you're just going over the same ones again, but let's
Maybe a
move on.
bear. There's some kind of creature. I can't tell if that's
A thylacine,
a
maybe.
wolf, bear, serpentine.
I guess
not
a
sure.
thylacine
There's
or
that. That's-
something, yeah. And that's a...
That's
Ooh, that looks like an armadillosuchus.
Some kind of bird.
So maybe a
Some kind of primate.
representing a crocodile down there.
And then Dimetrodon, looks like.
No.
interesting. Yeah,
Not a
1500s map, guys.
Dimetrodon. That's like a basilisk lizard, right? Something along those lines. Let me see. Basilisk lizard. I think this is in their range. Nope, it's actually not. No, basilisk lizards. See, I don't mind being wrong. They're on the other side of the Pacific. They're South America. But yeah, well, there could be some kind of lizard that has a frill like that, though. That's in the in New Guinea. Oh, we had the New Guinea fauna pulled up here. Why did I even click away from that? All I had to do is scroll down to the reptile section, and it'll tell us what kind of snakes and stuff live there. New Guinea is represented by 3 of the 4 extant orders. The squamates, also known as snakes and lizards, represent the largest group with approximately 300 described species. The remaining 2 groups, testuodine and the crocodiles and turtles. Yeah, I'm not saying crocodiles are testuodines. Turtles and tortoises are testuodines, and then crocodilia is the other group that's listed on here. Which is weird because they carve birds out of this and put it into its own category. Even though birds should, if crocodilians are nested under reptilia, there's no reason why birds shouldn't be, because they are both archosaurs. It doesn't give us like a specific list. Oh, let's see, a list of endemic reptiles to Papua New Guinea. Yeah, there's a lot to go through here. I'm not going to do this live on stream, but
Look at that.
no,
Dinosaurs and humans, you know? Or this.
it's crocodile.
So I don't know if I see the bonjour necessarily, but I mean, they
There's
had
an elephant.
look like elephants and stuff. Okay, let's see if we can find Australia on here, which is really interesting.
No, you can't.
Okay, if you would look at the bottom of the map, it says Terra Australis Incognita, but also in small little writing right there.
But Terra Australis just means the land of the south. There's what do they call it? Terra Borealis is the land of the north. So Terra Australis is land of the south. Antarctica was the real Australia. They named the continent of Australia Australia. And then they had to think of a new name for Antarctica. But that's what it originally applied to. It just means the land of the south.
It says Antarcticus or something, Antarcticus. But yeah, I found that out while I was doing my video editing, and I thought, wow, Australis, as well as the Circulus of Antarcticus, which is really interesting because it reminds me of the equator, the Tropic of Cancer, Capricorn. What if there's also a Circulus of Antarcticus? But yeah, and there we go.
Yeah, I mean, that's the
Just one little place
Antarctic
called
Circle.
And this is the Columbus map, if I remember right, TV.
Yeah, this is
Nova Todius.
a map that's not quite filled out just yet. They weren't sure. Like, if you look at the Northwest here, this is like the Northwest Passage that you talk about in ancient times that they were searching for. This is the known world of North America. They didn't know too much about what was north of California over here. They didn't know where Greenland ended. This was all thought to be, for a long time, thought that there was a massive landmass up in the north called Thule that was accepted and cataloged and everything, because travelers would go up there and just see the ice sheets and think, oh, that's just a massive landmass up there that goes on forever. And that was the idea behind that. And it was thought that was that Thule may have been connected to North America, but there was also the notion that there was some kind of passage to get through here called the fabled Northwest Passage, which actually is a thing that exists now, that climate change has opened up the seaways for the first time in human history. So there is actually a Northwest Passage for the first time ever. It just took a couple 100 years for us to make it with our chemical and pollution, but I'll digress and continue on.
Terram Orbis Graphicia, I think. Or wait, I forgot where it says it. Right here. Oh, American Christopher Columbus. Blah blah blah. Okay, so it's interesting. But anyway, the Magellantia Terra Australis Incognita.
That's talking about the unknown land of the south. Incognita is unknown. So Magellanic. In tribute to Magellan, this is what they would have called this area back then, because Magellan was the one who described what was down there. How much of his description is accurate and reflects reality, obviously you can take it with a grain of salt. Looking at this map here, he did fill in the blanks as best he could with the information that he had. I'm not shaming him. For the time period, this is a very progressive map, a progressive depiction of the world. So, and it tells you like, oh, India's over here, so to give you an idea where you're supposed to be. But Terra Australis Incognito means the unknown land of the south. Terra meaning land, Australis meaning south, Incognita meaning unknown.
It's interesting.
Yep.
That's interesting. But look, is that saying that this land is all through here, and also it's being called like Australia?
Yes, it was, because the word just means land of the south, or yeah, southern landmass or whatever.
Isn't that weird? Isn't it odd how Australia? I know it's a vast wilderness, guys. I understand, but how much of that continent do you guys really know? All you Australians, how much of that continent do you guys really know? Have you guys?
See, even back then they didn't know just yet that Australia, like this circle's in the way here, that Australia wasn't attached to more land down there. It was seen from far away. Australia, and because this is before Cook, right? If this is the Columbus map, this is before Cook. So all we had was distant sightings, mostly of people traveling this course to see all these ships right here, traveling these courses around the Horn of Africa to try to bypass the spice road. Europeans were ever endeavoring to find their own direct route to get spices and bypass the traders in between. So they would travel around the Horn of Africa into the southern seas, and sometimes they would drift further south and catch sight of land masses in the distance that they weren't provisioned or prepared to explore, but they could see off course, and they would document these in their ship logs. And then someone like Magellan, when he's making this map here, he'd go grab those ship logs and kind of fill in the blanks with what people start saying they see at what latitude, so that they can build a depiction of the world that exists as they know it, even without having full exploration. Yeah, that's true too. So I think that what he was saying about Columbus was, and I'm going off of what this gentleman's saying here. I didn't delve into this map and try to debunk it or anything. I just pulled it up. So he said it's the Columbus map, and I'm going to take him at face value on that. You do make a good point that Columbus is on this map, so obviously this was printed after Columbus's voyage, but this would have been presumably before Cook, because of the ambiguous nature of the southern continent.
You sailed around it? That's a real question. I asked all the Australians if there's any seafarers or whatnot. It's a really, really good question, guys. If you're looking at the Borgiorn stuff, because the territory and the fact that it's there. And
you can actually drive all the way around the continent of Australia. You can circumnavigate the whole continent. I think it would take quite a bit, like several weeks, but you can go all the way around the coast. It's the longest coastal cliffs in the world in Australia, so that might be a journey worth taking.
Anyway, we'll go jump on the other map.
Another map.
Right here.
I want to see the T-Rex on the map.
What's that a picture of? Very interesting. If that's not Australia, we have this continent. Some interesting creatures.
Is this the same map we were just looking at, though, my dude?
What's it called? The big ice age, tall ice age creatures.
Oh, there's a lion.
It's this one looks more deserty. There's some reptiles.
Patalia.
Yeah, I don't know where modern day Australia is on this map, but it's odd, isn't it? I mean, they have all kinds of cool creatures. All kinds of elephants all over those.
Got a miner.
Yeah, I don't know, guys.
I can't get an idea. It looks like you're up by Europe here.
But like chimeras,
Asia,
unicorns.
Where are you? I can't tell where you're.
Very interesting. Here's that from that previous video, the area of the Lapnur. But yeah, very
I don't
interesting.
know what this
Trying to figure out
map
what
is.
Queensland
That
is.
looks more like
Is
it's
that it?
supposed to be Africa.
Or the dinosaurs.
Oh, hold on. There we go. There we go. He said a name. Because I see Gianna, but I'm not sure. All right, Terra, Nova. So this is New Guinea again. Yeah, this is the same map he was just.
Very
looking
interesting.
at.
Trying to figure out what Queensland is. Is that it? Where the dinosaur is?
You're still looking at New Guinea,
Bonjour.
dude.
But anyway, like it, subscribe to question.
That would be Australia over there, maybe. The desert went over there. Is that where you were before? Let me see. I'm not trying to bully this person. I just
For Carteria, we are we don't have a whole lot of subscribers, but that doesn't matter. It looks like we're kind of just picking out the people that are awakening, I believe. The ones that are further awake, I might say. Everybody may be awakening, but the ones that are really awake, I know they joined Tartaria.
saw a lobster.
A special treat. I got some remnants of the inland sea right here. Kind of the Sierra Nevada.
Before
Sierra
the
Nevada,
reset?
in California. But yeah, I found some coral right here in the desert. Check it out. You can see the life that was once in these rocks.
Yeah.
Coral that was in the sea,
Yep.
the inland sea.
That is true.
You guys might like that. Coral.
This is probably Paleozoic life, I'm guessing. I don't know which time period. It's going to depend on which formation he's in. And maybe we can watch that video another point too. But let's
Okay, so if we go back
wrap
to the
this
map,
up.
I do believe this says Australia. It says Australia, Australe, Glaciato, the mayor of Australia Glaciato. That's interesting. And then you've got some awesome creatures too. Look like they had those Ice Age back in the 1500s. They had the Ice Age creatures here. And guys, do they still in Australia? I mean, it's hardly discovered. I mean, you guys are all living just on the side here, And
That
watch
does
out for
look
these
more
in
like
water, right? Who knows
Australia.
what's gonna happen. This reminds me of the Book of Enoch, and makes me start questioning how long ago did that all happen with crossing humans and
I wonder if
animals and
those
stuff.
are supposed to represent
Could be a cycle that
dugongs,
keeps happening.
maybe.
And I would put my money on this area, or up here for the Bonjour's modern, where it lives. I don't know if it could have crossed the sea there, but I doubt it. But it could very well have migrated to there.
I think those are that supposed-
Catalia region. It tells you, I wish I could read all this. The land, the terra. Wouldn't that be crazy if we saw Borgia right here? Oh my gosh. Some kind of... What is that? Some kind of dog creature? Hey, fits the bill. People say it's
I
a
mean,
dog-
there's
the dog-like
mythical
creatures
creatures
from
there. I
the
think there's a
Simpsons stuff.
centaur over there.
I mean-
So, yeah, there's
these
the
guys.
centaur. But you're worried about the dog creature?
There's that lizard the one guy was talking about. Apparently the Australians had to kill this giant lizard when they first colonized there. And the lizard was eating people, so it's a big prehistoric lizard, like a
Megalania was
supersized
well-
Komodo dragon. And they had to kill it by, when it would bask in the sun in the morning, they would shoot it in the head with a musket. That's how they would kill him. They killed them all off. Guys,
Well, there was lots of
this
large
be our Bonjour?
monitor lizards in the southern
picture of it.
continents, but
It's in the arms.
Megalania was believed to be extinct long before white settlers arrived, before colonizers showed up. But the Aborigines did have stories that some believe are relating tales of Megalania.
I mean, look at the... No, I don't think so. Look at the arms. It's small arms in the front, right?
Yeah, he's bouncing all over the place, Peter. I can't keep up with what he's looking at because he's moving through it so fast, and I can't track the map.
Or that.
I even have it
It's just
going
odd. It's hard to
slow,
make
so
out. Those might be mammals, but maybe stretching. But these are definitely lizards.
those are lizards. Yeah, and the
That is
centaur.
definitely a satyr hunting over there.
That's
What if they wiped out
centaur, not
in
a
the last great
satyr.
reset? The powers that be wiped out all the mythological creatures off the earth.
The last
as well as the
reset.
humans that were in
We
control
are
of the
well
earth.
familiar with that here in the
What an interesting-
Hive. The narrative of the
thought, right?
reset.
But anyway, there you go. There's your Australia. I do believe. I don't know if this is a part of it, but there's a lot more to
Yeah,
explore.
I think that
And I
that's
hope you
probably
like and subscribe
right.
to Quest for Tartaria. We are on YouTube and on BitChute. If you find us anywhere else, then they're hopefully advertising for us. But if you want to help Quest for Tartaria, jump on YouTube and BitChute. There is more to come. All right, take care.
Yeah, it looks like I will have to find that map in order to. Oh. Sorry, I didn't mean to pop that up. I need to start closing that when I'm done. Yeah, we'll have to locate some of these maps sometime. Sometime on Cryptic Corner, we're gonna do an ancient map stream. So, or I might do that with somebody who has some knowledge on this time period and the way the maps were made. That would be great. And bring someone on who actually has some knowledge on the subject to give us the insight from the field. That would be amazing. But yes, this has been Cryptic Corner for today. It did run a little bit long, but we had a lot to go over. We were exploring the whole land of Tartaria, which is apparently a southern continent that includes Australia and Antarctica, due to those being adjoined on old ancient maps of the modern world. And there was apparently dinosaurs that lived there, including and up to tyrannosaurs. But that being said, let us move on to our next topic, and I will see you after intermission.
Did the evolutionists just kill a pterodactyl? Or did they finally catch up to the creationists?
Obviously, there's not going to be a ton of talk about these things. And the thing is, I do believe there was talk about these things. I believe if we study history, the Confederates were able to shoot pterodactyls, back in the Civil War. And they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online. They spread these things out. And this is a historical fact. So, they spread this thing out, and it's got a huge wing length. And it's a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so, I don't believe that just because, at some point in time, coming from your perspective, that, just because they stopped talking about it means that they never saw it, when we have all this evidence that they've seen it.
Hello, my name is John Pendleton, and I'm speaking to you from Zacatecas, Mexico, center of Mexico. And today I'm going to tell you of my project to attract and capture a real living pterodactyl dinosaur.
But to the Christian, it makes common sense. Of course, there could be a few still alive. That's the first sighting I've heard of in Fort Worth, Texas. I've heard of them in Arizona. A friend of mine knows where some of them live, and he's going to go catch them and put them in a dinosaur adventure land he's going to build. And I can't reveal the details yet.
They're a form of what people call pterodactyl. But if we consider them descended from some type of ramphorhynch or pterosaur.
The Kool-Aid of saying that there is no God. Don't drink the Kool-Aid of religion. Tune Network to tell us that dinosaurs farted themselves to death to evolve and to continue their evolution on Earth. That Jesus was just a man and not God. Toon Network land or Nickelodeon land. He reviewed My Little Pony. Those of you in this atheist, non-believing community, that dinosaurs lived 65 plus million years ago in this new environment on a beneficial mutation to try to disprove the Bible 65 plus million years ago. Didn't deteriorate for millions and millions of years. If deep time evolution were true, and say that somehow it was magically preserved, and that's how it lasted in deep time. This iron could preserve it. Okay, maybe that iron could be what's preserving the blood cells, and he consummated the marriage, and it was normal back then, and choose to marry her when she was only 9 years old, and make a public spectacle of them. The way that he actually started out his ministry is after he received this supposed revelation, and it was replaced with the origin of species by means of natural selection.
All right, good morning. I guess if you're watching this on Creation Watch Wednesday, good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Creation Watch, and in Creation Watch, we have some fun looking at some creationist claims and arguments that are sort of out there, and we are going to be diving right into that today. I'm going to tell you. So there are creationists that I get along with. As I said, we got Peter out here in the side chat, friend of mine. Paleologos is the channel. Again, Sandy dropped the link up above if you didn't catch it. So I'm not like anti-creationist. I like to engage on these topics, and today is going to be no difference. And I'm going to be pushing back on some misrepresentation, or what I believe is misrepresentation of Victorian era thinkers, and the way that humanity was portrayed in this point in time, or this area of time. So we are actually going to be diving into Answers TV today, and it's going to be a gentleman named Calvin Smith. He has a video on this that's about 10 minutes long. He's got a blog on it that's basically the same content, but he gives us citations. So be like Calvin Smith and give your citations, and we can. It helps me to engage with your content. So let's move into this now. Where are we? Sorry. It always takes me a minute to get this pulled up, so bear with me. We're going to jump right in just a moment. There we go. All right, so as you see, this video is suggested for 13 years and up. It's mature content. Parental guidance is advised on this. I will share that disclaimer that there is an uncomfortable message that's presented in this video. It's claimed to be the message of science, but I don't think that pans out. Yeah. Oh, you guys in the side chat are bashing on Matt Powell, but Matt Powell goes to show that you can show the world that you're an alpha male and defeating the gays and have low T at the same time. Those are two things. Those are not mutually exclusive. Alpha males can have low T too. And I just say that I don't care about testosterone at all. Testosterone is a toxic substance. I wish I could get rid of mine. I'll give my testosterone.
Examples of so-called links between humans and their supposed animal heritage had appeared prior to Darwin's primary publications, and the cruel and racist attitudes such ideas produced took a fearful toll on some of the unfortunate people involved in the human freak show industry. For example, 5 years prior to Darwin's Origin of Species, Julia Pastrana was exhibited.
So this is gonna be the main focus of our video here. Is this young lady named Julia Pastrana. She was a individual dealing with a skin condition that we associate with. Here's her Wikipedia article. It's pretty straightforward. Gives citations of where this information comes from. I'm so sick of people saying Wikipedia is not a good source of information, because Wikipedia isn't a source of information. It's a hub to find links to additional information and citations. So she had this condition right here: hypertrichosis terminalis, or generalized hypertrichosis lanuginosus, or ginosa, lanuginosa, yeah. Anyway, so her face and body were covered with black hair. And she also had a gum disease, gingival hypersplasia, which caused her teeth to look a little bizarre. So she was had very unique appearance with her detention in her hair
on
covering.
Broadway in New York's Gothic Hall. She was originally billed as a marvelous hybrid or bear woman, and noted as a semi-human being, somewhat between a human being and an orangutan, by George C.D. Odell, the theater chronicler, in his diary. She was described as follows: the eyes of this lusus natura, in Latin literally a sport of nature, a freak, mutant, or monster, beams with intelligence, while its jaws, jagged fangs, and ears are terrifically hideous. Nearly its whole frame is coated with long, glossy hair. Its voice is harmonious, for this
Yeah, because there's nothing else different about her than that she had this skin condition and this dental condition that caused. She also had features about her physical appearance that that may have been or could potentially be perceived as ethnic. The shape and position of her nose and ears she had a big nose is basically what it comes down to. But
human being is perfectly docile.
It shows pictures of
Pastrana
her.
was of
I have a big
Mexican
nose,
Indian
so
descent
whatever.
and born hirsute, with her entire body covered in thick black hair. Her jaws and teeth were also unusually prominent, likely due to what would be now described as severe gingival hyperplasia.
Yeah.
Over the course of her career, she would be described as baboon lady, ape woman, and the ugliest woman in the world.
Now let's remember that Answers is going to conflate the taglines put up by showmen. And we talked about this on Battle for Gaia. If you aren't subscribed to Battle for Gaia, I do cultural depictions of different species in a subject called in a show called Breeze Bestiaries. We did the hyena last time, where we talk about the earliest depictions of any given clade all the way up to modern depictions. Again, we did hyena recently. But showmen, and when we get into the 19th century, when this stuff was going on, when traveling menageries, they would say all sorts of wild things about the subjects they had in their collections, like the fat guy or whatever that really weighs maybe 400, 500 pounds will be presented as the 1-ton man, for instance. A giant might be presented as 11 feet tall, even though he's really 7'8" or something like that. Just keeping the audience at a distance from him and letting them speculate and put maybe some scaled down stuff around him. I think there was one that had a little scaled down grandfather clock that he traveled with just to show how tall he was, and it was presented as over 11 feet tall. There were they would give fake narratives and stories to the origins of these creatures. What comes to mind most is Buddy, also marketed as Gargantua, the gorilla that Ringling Brothers had in their circus for years. It presented as the largest and most fearsome gorilla ever seen. He was a gentle, blind giant. He couldn't see because he had acid thrown in his face when he was young. It also scarred him, giving him a fearsome appearance. So he was a pretty big gorilla, mostly overweight. And he was presented with all sorts of wild claims about that he was 6'5", that he was 500 pounds, all these wild claims attached to him that weren't true. And it was the same for people like Julia here, who did indeed get labeled as the baboon lady and the ape woman by showmen, not by scientists.
Advertisements and commentaries made for her performances, in which she sang and danced for the masses. Today, she would be described medically as suffering from polytrichosis.
Hypertrichosis is probably what it was. Polytrichosis is sort of a synonym for that, though, so I'm not going to fault him too much on that.
During this time, approximately only 50 other people were known to have Pastrana's condition, and many of them worked in circuses.
There's Lionel. He was the Lion Man. His story that they came up with is that he was found living with his father in a cave in Russia. That was the wild tale that they came up for his origin.
As ape men or human werewolves, and thus influenced.
My mom had this collection of books called Very Special People that were about all the different people that appeared in these freak show things and what their real life was like compared to what their showman persona was. Because these are characters that they play. This is someone with a medical condition. This hirsute condition is what they called it back then. And they used that and came up with fantastical origin stories for her, and she traveled with the circus to make money. She had one, I guess, handler when she first came on the scene, one person she was working with. And then another guy came along and she like fell in love with him. They got married and they traveled together for the rest of her life. She was married to the showman that was making these advertisements to her. That was her husband. And and she, from all accounts, she loved him very much. That they actually did have a real relationship, and she actually died from postpartum complications after giving birth. Their son that she gave birth to also had this condition, but he died shortly after birth.
Hundreds of thousands of average people towards a belief in a supposed animalistic origin for not only her, but the entire history of humankind. Interestingly, the Bible describes an example of someone who seemed to have an abnormal amount of hair as well, Jacob's twin brother, Esau. But Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, "Behold, my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man." Genesis 27, verse 11. Scripture...
They call him Esau, but the modern translation of the name is Esquatch. But the E is dropped in favor of Sass when you translate it to an Algonquin language group. So Sasquatch is what is just Hebrew for, or just Algonquin for, no, I'm just messing with you. Let's go.
Records that with his mother's help, Jacob impersonates his hairy older twin by dressing in Esau's clothes and covering his own hands and the nape of his neck with hairy goatskins. When their blind father Isaac felt the hair on Jacob's arms, he believed that Jacob was Esau. Fooled by the ruse, Isaac is tricked into giving the younger son the blessing of the firstborn. And while Esau may have simply been at the extreme end of what is considered normal male hairiness...
Was he, though? Maybe he was a Squatch. It does not say that he was not a Sasquatch anywhere in the Bible. They didn't have the same word for Sasquatch back then. Like how the dinosaurs that are in the Bible are, because they called them dragons. The Sasquatch in the Bible were called Esau.
Such a specific description may indicate a scriptural example of someone already suffering some type of abnormality, such as male hirsutism or hypertrichosis. But back to Miss Pastrana's story. The number of references demonstrating the attempt to position Pastrana as a missing link or ape-like throwback
are totally fictional, and you're going to make them up. Continue.
Quite prolific. And high-level evolutionist scientists of the day used her condition to promote evolutionary belief. Here are just a few examples. Ernst Haeckel, infamous for his forged embryo drawings,
Ernst Haeckel, who made these drawings that are appearing behind him of which were inspirational for early embryological research, the development of different clades and how they go through homologies, more homologies with further related organisms, the further back into the embryonic development you go. So, some of his drawings were interpretive, and I guess creationists really hate that and make it out like there was some big conspiracy about it, but there really wasn't. I mean,
used to falsely promote evolution in textbooks for over 100 years, described Pastrana as an ape-like human that represented a higher stage of development than...
Oh, let's see what Haeckel actually said. You guys want to? Because, again, like I said, I had this blog, right, for the same person by the same author, citing the sources. We have sources, guys. We have sources of Haeckel. And the good thing about Haeckel and Darwin is that a lot of their stuff is public domain. So, that's not Haeckel. Hold on. I had him pulled up here just a moment. There we go. Here's Haeckel. Here's the quote. And to be clear, it'll be clear what this is talking about here in a moment. The striking resemblance that persists so long between the embryo of man and of the higher apes disappears much earlier in the lower apes. Its nature remains longest in the large anthropomorphic apes, which are gorilla, chimpanzee, orangs, and gibbons. And by the way, he's talking about the nose here. He's talking about her nose, specifically when he brings her up. But the physiogenomic similarities of these animals, which we find so great in their earlier years, lessens with the increase of age. On the other hand, it remains throughout life in the remarkable long-nosed ape of Borneo, Nasalis larvatus, which is larvatus, which is the proboscis monkey. You've seen them; they have the big honking nose, right? The males do anyhow. That's what they're talking about here. Its finely shaped nose would be regarded with envy by any man, or by many a man who had too little of that organ. I guess having a big nose was in style back then. I don't know. If we compare the face of the long-nosed ape with that of an abnormally ape-like human being, such as the famous Miss Julia Pastrana, based on her various pathologies, I would assume, it will be admitted to represent a higher stage of development. There are still people among us who look especially to the face for the image of God and man. The long-nosed ape would have more claim to this than some of the stumpy-nosed human individuals one might meet. So what the case that's being presented here is that having a nose like what humans have is a characteristic that is presented as human in the development. But when we look at embryonic development in other apes, which here they use the term anthropomorphic apes and include a monkey in the list, so it goes to show how crude our phylogenies were back then. But I digress. That it's talking about having a prominent nose as being a characteristic of mankind, but then, hey, this monkey has a bigger nose than humans. It's even a human with a abnormally large nose like Miss Julia Pastrana, and it links us to a picture of her right here. This figure here. So yeah, back to the misquote. So an ape-like human that represents a higher stage of development than long-nosed apes. Let's find those sections in there and just see if he's representing how that was said properly. Yeah, if we compare the face of a long-nosed ape with that of an abnormally ape-like human being, such as the famous Miss Julia Pastrana, it will be admitted to represent a higher stage of development. Yeah, so that's not how this is being read at all. So, continuing on.
Than the long-nosed apes in his book, The Evolution of Man. Charles Darwin himself described Pastrana as gorilla-like evidence of the assortment of genetic variation found in humans that natural selection could select from.
Now, notice how there's no quotations around this? It's because Darwin didn't say this. And when you go, again, to Mr. Calvin's blog, it tells us where his citation about Darwin is coming from, which is right here. The variation of plants, of animals and plants under domestication. So now we can take that information and we can pull this up and see what Darwin had to say about Pastrana. Here's another somewhat different case communicated to me by Mr. Wallace. Now, Wallace it could have just as well been named Wallacean evolution instead of Darwinian evolution back in the early days. But Mr. Wallace, on the authority of Dr. Perland, a dentist, Julia Pastrana, a Spanish dancer, was a remarkably fine woman, but she had a thick masculine beard and a hairy forehead. She was photographed and her stuffed skin was exhibited as a show. But what concerns us is that she had both the upper and lower jaw in a regular double set of teeth, one row being placed within the other, of which Dr. Perlin took a cast. From the redundancy of the teeth in her mouth, her mouth projected, and her face had a gorilla-like appearance. So, because of her malformed dental plate, she had a swollen lower jaw that made it project out and look ape-like, like a gorilla. These cases and those of the hairless dogs forcibly call to mind the fact that the two orders of mammals, namely Indentata and Cetacea, so Cetacea is the whales and dolphins. Indentata is not really a group anymore, but it used to be what we call the Xenarthrans, which included anteaters, sloths, and armadillos, and also it included aardvarks and other things from the old world that aren't classed with Xenarthrans anymore, which are the most abnormal in their dermal covering, are likewise the most abnormal either by deficiency or redundancy of teeth. So he's talking about the unique dentition being associated with abnormal skin, including hair, or as in the case of cetaceans, having fur and things like that, fur loss in the case of cetaceans. And Indentata was, of course, sloths, and anteaters have shaggy coats, and then armadillos have scales. Pangolins were in this group when back in Darwin's day, pangolins were grouped here, and they had the scales or armor plating. So that is not what Darwin said in his citation. This person is misrepresenting Darwin, saying that he's saying because of the pathologies of her disease, gave her the appearance of an ape, just in passing appearance. And then he speculated that the genes that cause abnormal dermis also cause abnormal dentition, which means that if you had abnormal qualities to your skin and hair, that you are also going to genetically be predispositioned to have abnormalities in your dental formulation as well. Nothing about her being a missing link or anything like that. It's him talking about how these two genetics or genetic groupings could be related. All right. let's see, and somebody said something out here and tagged me. They just didn't have the word Sasquatch back then. Cough. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was doing, because that's what they always say about dragons and stuff. And I'll be right back. My apologies. My phone and watch were both still on the charger, and my phone's about to go off on the alarm. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, and I'll fix that.
And the overtly racist The Living Races of Mankind, which was considered a standard anthropological text in 1902, contained a photograph of Pastrana used in certain American racist publications, claiming her an example of a hybrid between a black person and an ape. And
okay, wait. Let's source those things too. And I didn't source these because these citations I could not find anywhere in his sources. I did source them from her wiki though. So again, I stand by using citations provided by Wikipedia. They're all down here, and it'll tell you which information is contained where. And I did find citations for the people that they're making the claims that he talks about her being a missing link. So first we have this guy who, let's see, and I have these in reverse order. Let me start at the other end. Who was the first to talk about? Okay, so Alexander B. Mott, we had him. This is a Civil War doctor. So, not or Civil War surgeon, American surgeon and soldier, and he was quoted as saying, let's see, yeah, during her life, Pastrana's management arranged to have her examined by doctors and scientists, using their evaluations as advertisements to attract larger audiences. One doctor, Alfred B. Mott, MD, certified that she was specifically the result of a mating of a human and an orangutan, because, where was he? Alexander B. Mott, the Civil War surgeon, is definitely qualified to make that assessment. He fought on the side of the Union. How could he be wrong? It's not like he was a dirty Confederate. So he's a reliable source, right? Civil War surgeons. I mean, if you can pull bullets out of people with tweezers on a battlefield, if you've got a scalpel in one hand and a rifle in the other, you are qualified to decide whether a human and orangutan had got it on to make a baby. All right, next on the list for our citations here, we have, do I see Jason from Dragons and Genesis out there? Oh my gosh, I feel so graced and so blessed. Oh. Anyway, next person we have is this Dr. S. Bernard from, his quote comes from Buckland, which Curiosities of Nature, which I did find. And if you look into this book, this is about her preservation after death as a mummy, nondescript. Julia Pastrana exhibited exhibition of human mummy. So this is about the way they had preserved her, and what she looked like, and he recants a little bit about what she looked like in life. And yeah, he was quoted, declaring her a distinct species. But these are, again, old-timey doctors that showmen were having examine their exhibits to bolster, not to find the truth, but to find something that they can say that this doctor declared this is a distinct species. So, yeah, then stated that she was only a deformed. Frances Buckland, who quoted this doctor in his book, went on to say, yeah, that she was only a deformed Mexican Indian woman, which now it wouldn't necessarily be the proper language to use there, but back then it probably would have been to call her deformed. But she had, several conditions. There were some pathologies that she had going on. She had the dental thing and the hair thing. And yeah, of course, Darwin here speculating about that, just with that there may be a link between her teeth issues and her hirsute issues. Then we had Dr. Samuel Nealon Jr., a comparative anatomist of the Boston Society of Natural History. So this is someone who's actually credentialed to make this kind of assessment, declared that she was a human of Indian descent. Thank you, Samuel Nealon, naturalist, which is what they called a biologist back then, or a biologist, ecologist, because those fields were the same until fairly recently. Other fields have popped off of naturalists since then too, because they went on to be from naturalist to nature scientist, and then you get zoology and things like that coming out off of it. But yeah, this guy was actually qualified to make the assessment, and what he said again about Pastrana was she was a human and of Indian descent. So yeah, that's not what the top scientists of the day were presenting. There were racist people presenting like multiple origin theory for the human race, where there were a native population that the Native Americans, a native population of apes that the Native Americans evolved from. That was a thing that people tried to present. It was not rooted in evolution. It was rooted in racism the Anglocentrism that white people, especially at this time, that in this Victorian era with these naturalists, was specifically Anglo superiority. But at the time, it was a very real thing, and people used it in movements. But that wasn't the opinion of the leading scientists of the day, like these organizations like Answers in Genesis try to present. They were always a fringe group. The person who stands out to me is that Montanado gentleman. But the books that he's pulling up here are of that same genre, right? All right, let's keep going.
The Encyclopedia of Evolution, Humanity's Search for Its Origins, stated, Julia Pastrana was a throwback to an ape-like stage of humanity. Pastrana's story of exploitation is indeed a sad one that seemed to have no boundaries. Her husband and manager, Theodore Lent, arranged for performances both during her life and after her and their infant son's death, because both suffered from similar diseases. He arranged their embalming to allow their bodies to be exhibited and entice audiences whenever he could find.
Right, because he was a showman. Her husband was a showman. It doesn't mean that he thought she was subhuman or anything like that. She was a performer. She was an entertainer, and he was her manager, and she loved being an entertainer, and presumably loved being an entertainer. She sang and danced. I'd have a hard time singing and dancing all my life if I didn't enjoy singing and dancing, because she could have just as well dressed up in rags and sat in a corner of a cage and been a wild woman, but she wanted to perform and sing and dance. So that's what she did. And her husband supported her in doing that. She died in childbirth, or shortly after childbirth to a stillborn son. Eye placement, brow ridge, chin, etc. could tell you about honesty, courage, criminal inclinations, and intelligence. Yes, science was, medical science was so bizarre back then, or what they claimed was medical science. All right, let's get
venues that would allow it. Incredibly, the general public's appetite for such grotesque displays was not limited just to the Victorians and early 20th century parishioners, but astonishingly continued into the early 1970s. As late as 1972, Pastrana's body toured the United States with a traveling amusement park called the $1 Million Midway. And the following summer, the body...
That's not abnormal for something of this nature. There are a lot of museums with preserved or mummified remains of individuals who had medical abnormalities. There's whole museums dedicated to medical abnormalities, giant skeletons within, and not, when I say giant skeletons, I don't mean the ones that Kent Hovind thinks were dug up in Michigan. I think that when I say giant skeletons, I mean of people who had pituitary diseases that caused them to grow and things like that, fetuses that are infants that came out with abnormalities, people like John Merrick, the Elephant Man, like his bones are on display as well. Medical abnormalities are interesting to the general public, and strange anatomy is when it comes to understanding human genetics, it is something to keep in mind and think about. That but the arrangement of our genetics in just a little bit of a different way, you would express totally unexpected characteristics sometimes. And these can be atavisms, like having a tail, or they can be, we got a person with a condition that causes them to grow hair if that takes hold in a population. Again, look at there's a family still in Mexico that performs. They're all acrobats and trapeze performers, and they're all fursuited. They showed hersuited. They showed actually one of them earlier on in the video. Yeah, it was right there. So we're at 5:45. So this person, yeah. So these are people that are really still performing, still out on the out doing shows. And they are still working for circuses because their family has for generations, and they reproduce this genetic effect. It's taken hold in this genetic group, and if isolated, this could potentially become the standard for their descendants, right? And it would be a unique genetic grouping with unique genetic expressions. And people want to look at this and say, yeah, things like evolution don't happen when we see these characteristics taking hold in a population. All right, let's wrap this up because it's only a little over halfway.
Their bodies restored. Mm-hmm. The sad fact is that such dehumanizing shows continued long after any excuse that these examples of missing links were anything other than suffering people had been.
Notice that none of the people that they're talking about here are missing links. They're talking like they had like Chinese twins and stuff like that, which is what they called them.
And despite the scientific and medical community's understanding of this, Priscilla, the monkey girl, with advertising asking, "Was Darwin right? Did man evolve from ape?" toured the United States as recently as 1974. In fact, it wasn't...
There's still people that have this condition, and that's what they advertise. It's not society dehumanizing them. It's these people saying, I have this condition which makes me unique, and I can make money displaying my characteristics, whereas I'm going to find out trouble fitting in society anywhere else. For instance, like getting like at this time, even up until the 70s, getting a job as a woman with a full beard is going to be difficult. But you can make bank if you go out touring and let people gawk at you for 20 minutes. And you already have the condition. You're going to live with the condition whether you make money off of it or not. So, and people like Julia Pastrana, found love along the way, which is a beautiful story. Assuming that that it's not a romanticized version of history. I know that happens too, but everything I've read about Pastrana that her marriage and her husband, that they were a partnership, that they worked as a team. There were other exhibits that he worked with as well, but she was his partner.
Until February the 7th, 2013, that Julia Pastrana was returned to Mexico and buried with proper dignity a few days later in Sinaloa de Levra. It's entirely reasonable to assume that if Pastrana had been perceived...
Well, was proper dignity by whose standards? I'm assuming it's the standards of the whatever country claimed her status, but I don't think that being mummified and displayed is disrespectful at all. You're not, and that's because I'm not religious, I guess. I don't think that there's anything about your physical body after you die that, I mean, I get, like, I wouldn't go violate somebody's corpse or not anything, but if somebody said, hey, I want to have my body preserved, here's the funding to have it done, then you have their body preserved and the funding is taken care of. And if Julia and her next of kin decided that she wanted to have her body preserved and her body of her child preserved, that is up to them. Eat the rich. Yeah, that's exactly right. And this is capitalism. It's somebody with a medical condition that's found a way to capitalize on it, which is good for them to find a way to get ahead in this capitalist society, Titan. I'm with you, though. Eat the rich. Arm the poor. I'll shut up now.
As fully human, created in the image of God, and simply a victim of a sin-cursed world. She and her son's remains would never have been allowed to be displayed for profit like animals. Once his seminal work was...
Why is it like animals? I don't agree with that. And for me, it's either all or nothing. You don't get to say, oh, you can preserve animals, but you can't preserve people. That's not where my compass points. It's either you can preserve everything or you can preserve nothing. And I think I'm more about preserving everything because we need to be able to keep things around, right? Aw. Everybody touch the screen. Darwin's on the screen. Oh, Darwin. Lord Darwin.
Was published, popularized, and iconized within the more atheistic and anti-biblical intellects of his day, Darwin's name became associated with popular evolutionary ideas such as missing links with increasing regularity. And a well-known...
That's because, again, people were racist and were like, hey, humans evolved from apes. I bet those humans evolved from different apes than we evolved from. I bet we white people evolved from better apes than them. Our apes, they died. They were, and at the time was, Neanderthals show that we were, this before when you guys were gorillas and chimpanzees and orangutans. We were Neanderthals. So we're way ahead of you. That was the idea that these groups of people were presenting. It did not have anything to do with what, I mean, I shouldn't say it didn't have anything to do with what Darwin's theory was, but it wasn't Darwin presenting this case. It was people taking the idea of evolution and trying to make sure that they weren't lumped together with other people of other races because they had to be, especially white people, had to be objectively superior to them. And in that case, they would dehumanize them by saying they had a different ape ancestor.
Example is Creationist, a young Siamese girl who was exploited as an ape child when she was just 6 years old. First in Europe and later in the United States. Creole apparently suffered from medical challenges similar to Julia Pastrana's. And the physical results of her medical conditions provided her promoters with everything they were looking for.
Now, she's a child, so it sounds like she got like Victorian era Britney'd to me.
In an 8-man hybrid exhibit. Having appeared on the scene in the early 1880s, 9 years after the descent of man's ideas had been absorbed, assimilated, and disseminated into the consciousness of Western society.
Yeah, well, Descent of Man, and this portrayal here is problematic in itself if you don't know what you're looking at. The step-by-step progression here.
Creo was literally referred to as Darwin's missing link in a self-described exhaustive research of medical literature titled Anomalies and Curiosities of Medicine, published in 1896.
Yeah. Let's see, we had that one pulled up as well. Yeah, she was a medical curiosity. That's to be true.
Again, this was despite the vast awareness and understanding of such medical conditions. There was no reason except to benefit the self-serving promoters.
So you gotta understand when we call it a medical condition, and it again, like I said, it takes hold in populations, right? So it's a genetic variation. The reason it's a disorder is because it deviates from what we consider normal as a species. But there's these other than maybe some health defects, I would have to look more into that. What the health defects of this condition are, but it's just a genetic variation that takes hold in these populations. It's not to say that it's obviously the dental suffering that Pastrana had was a completely different set of circumstances than what we're seeing with this individual, because her mouth doesn't look quite as deformed as Julia's was. However, the hair situation, yeah, that's just a genetic expression.
For both monetary and ideological gains to justify Creo's exploitation. In fact, Miss Farini was well read and spoke several languages, and yet she starred in the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus until she passed away at age 49 in April 1926.
And I think she's the one that the character from The Greatest Showman is based on, the bearded lady in that. I think that she's who that's supposed to be, but I think she's supposed to be a mix of her and Pastrana, because she sings like Pastrana did. The bearded lady in The Greatest Showman. So yeah.
As evolutionary ideas continued to grow among the scientific and lay communities, missing link exhibits in sideshows became more and more commonplace. Naturalistic ideas of man's origins.
Yeah, when we get into the late 19th, early 20th century, and essentially when colonialism peaked and when the colonized needed to be dehumanized in order to keep them subjugated, having the notions that they were genetically inferior, that they're descendant from apes and less evolved than the white man, again because we're descendant from, at this time they decided we were descendant from Neanderthals and or Adam and Eve, but the scientifically minded from that white people were descendant from Neanderthals, while African people were descendant from gorillas or chimpanzees. Asian people were descendant from orangutans. That was literally the story that they wanted to say. And so, since our ancestors were Neanderthals, which were basically looked like just another group of humans, whereas these other groups' ancestors were these crude apes, that we were obviously more evolved than them, and that was the narrative that was being pushed. Now there was with people like Julia Pastrana being from Mexican regions where alleged missing links of the Native American population were expected to be found, which would be like what they call Mesoamerica, as they find Mesopotamia in the Old World, Mesoamerica in the New World. And she was in this area with this condition, And it added to this racial narrative that they wanted to present at the time, and that there was a native population of apes that evolved into Native Americans.
Were disseminated first among the scientific elite and then among the general public.
It wasn't the scientific elite, though, like you just said, that the condition that she had at this point in time was understood. But she can't capitalize off. I mean, she can't going on a tour as a at the time what they call a freak show, but as a performer or whatever. She was. I don't know if this young lady did acts and stuff like Julia Pastrana did. I don't know as much about her, but if she can't go, I have a medical condition that causes me to grow excessive body hair. Doesn't sell as many tickets as, hey, it's the Mexican wolf girl, or it's the baboon lady, or something along those lines. That this half ape, half woman, half wolf, half human. Those kind of things are what sells, especially to racist people who want to say that Native Americans are descendant from a different population than they are.
Through such exhibits. And once popularized, they were then used by scientists as observable examples of human evolution.
These are not people with that condition. These are people with things. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I think it's hydrocephaly, but I think that's backwards. I think hydrocephaly is when your head gets big. These are what they called in this performance community of the circus freak shows that they called a pinhead, and we will see that they are expressing very different characteristics than what we see with the hairy people. These individuals have tiny heads, but their facial features, such as eyes, nose, and mouth, are normal size. They have underdeveloped brains. It doesn't mean that they're always going to be mentally deficient, though. Their brains are generally smaller than a normal person's. It's another medical condition. That they were often presented as representatives of a lost tribe of some kind that just looks like this, things like that.
And this created an ideological cycle of cross-promotion that bolstered belief in more naturalistic ideas of man's origins among all strata of society, in clear contradiction of the plain reading of God's Word.
All right, we're done with that. So that was just some good old-fashioned quote mining, cherry picking, and misrepresentation of data, and also what's the term called when you look at a time period through a modern lens and pretend like they had the knowledge then that we have now about certain scientific facts. I can't think of the term for it. There's a fallacy in there somewhere. But that was Creation Watch. Warning evolutionists, this will horrify you, was the way this was presented. Were you horrified by these images, by this story? This had a parental guidance warning at the beginning of it. I don't know if they're trying to say that people with this medical condition are not safe for children to see. I'd hate for what's his name again? Something Calvin Smith to run into one of these people with his children in the grocery store. It seems like based on the way he's presenting this, that he would quickly cover his kids' eyes because they aren't safe for children to see. But I don't know, maybe, or either that, or he's saying that the misquotes and misrepresentations that he presented are not safe for children to hear. Then, in my opinion, in that case, just don't misquote them and misrepresent them. Don't pretend they were saying something racist when they weren't, or represent their case as racist. It's very odd that both Darwin and Haeckel both advised that Darwin referred to her as a Spanish dancer first and as a remarkably fine woman. And the infamous Haeckel just called her the famous Miss Julia Pastrana. Nothing derogatory there, just saying that she had these medical conditions that caused her to express these physical characteristics. So, yeah, if you're thinking of parental guidance or parental warning because this video said something, you quoted something that was racist, it's because you made up the racist part, though. It's not something that actually happens in the history of this individual. And I think that presenting her as if she was just some helpless pawn in this, when she obviously had a career as an entertainer and enjoyed entertaining, I don't know what to tell you. It's your mischaracterization. Now, let's move right along because the show is down to our last segment, so it's time for some good old-fashioned hive science. So, see you after intermission.
Evolution.
All right. Thank you for giving me that quick little break there. I like breaking the show up like this, and it gives me good cut points for editing these for their independent releases as well. So thank you for sticking around. I hope you enjoy my little intermission clips and little videos. That's sort of the passion that I have for creating and making art, and I'm going to continue to do so. So it's kind of the cornerstone of the channel. It's just an excuse for me to make my edited content. I started off trying to make just edited content, but I kind of like this better. I like doing live stuff and engaging with you guys, and then displaying my my edited content in between. And I want to share my edited content and your edited content. So again, as I plugged at the beginning of the show, I know we have a few people that have popped in since then. If you have a channel promotion, if you have a commercial, a trailer, if you have an ad, if you have anything like that that you think is Hive adjacent, if you think that my audience would be interested in, send it to me at the email down below, and I will add your commercial into my segments between, or to this between segments to help give the show a better flow. We'll add some ads in there. I have a couple of people that I've already uploaded videos for. I got Big Bad Mama, who you saw her Matt Powell quote video was included on there. And I have Ring sent me some stuff that's seasonal, so now that it's December, we can include that in our ads. If you have something that you want me to include, a short video comedy sketch that you did, just a rant of you, something that presents to the world what your content is, whether it's just an edited video or it's a clip of you having an engagement. As long as you have a channel or something that you're doing content on and it doesn't conflict with my community standards, which are pretty loose and lenient, and all things considered, just I think bigotry is the only place where I draw a line. So other than that, give it to me and I will advertise it. I don't care what your belief system is either. If you're a young earth creationist, give me your channel link and I will advertise on this channel for your channel. But I warn you, in that position, that my audience is very skeptically minded, and they will probably come to your videos and cause great havoc in your side chat. But I'm definitely willing to send them over. Anyway, yeah, Big Zebra. I know you have your BigZebra.com. If you have an ad you'd like me to run for BigZebra.com, let me know. All right. So that being said. Housekeeping being done again, just a backup housekeeping in case you missed it. We are moving into the HiveScience today. It's actually going to be a little bit of an oddball for a HiveScience. I didn't know how quite to categorize this. I knew it was going to belong in this section, but HiveScience is divided into different things I cover. There's environmental topics. There is like historical topics. There's fossil discoveries. There's new species discoveries that I'll cover on here, or new scientific research about different species and animals. Today's a little bit different. It does involve animals, though. It involves something we talked about quite a bit on this channel, something called a spotted lanternfly. Now, most of my American friends here will probably know that we had a spread of that particular organism across the eastern United States, pushing ever westward every spring as it gets warmer and these organisms start to migrate, and they just devastate trees. The spotted lanternfly is an invasive species in North America, and many states have campaigns to wipe them out, squish on sight, squish them, spray them, do what you can to get rid of them. There is a way that you can get them to go. If you put the mouth of a water bottle like this up to them on a tree, and obviously not a full one, but this is my hydration, by the way. If you put it up to them on a tree and kind of just bump it up, they will actually fall right into that bottle. You get it filled up with them and just give it a good squish. I'm telling you to squish bugs. There are other ways too. There's recipes out there where you can that'll teach you how to make environmentally friendly spotted lanternfly spray. I should have included a link on that. But and citizens of varying stripes have stepped up and started the combat with spotted lanternflies, including this young lady in New Jersey, who's unfortunately happened to be black. So when she was spraying spotted lanternflies, her neighbor, well, I'm going to share this now with you, okay? So this is racism. There is going to be a big racism here. So brace yourself. All right. Why are we 14 seconds in?
Hi. How are you? What's going on?
All right, so a man called a non-emergency police line to report a girl who was spraying spotted lanternflies in Caldwell, New Jersey. New Jersey has a Stomp It Out campaign encouraging residents to kill the invasive species that is harmful to plants and trees.
A little black woman walking and spraying stuff on the sidewalks and trees on Elizabeth and Florence. I don't know what the hell she's doing. It scares me, though.
Did you have any clothing description or anything?
She's a real small woman, real tiny. She's got a hood on. You can't miss her.
Hi. How are you?
An officer arrived. He found a 9-year-old girl. Oh.
What's going on? Is that your mom? What's that? Oh, what are you using to sponsor? You're trying to catch him? Is this your mom coming down the street? Okay. Someone just called in and said that she was alone spraying something on the grass.
She's catching
I see. Oh, you know the word?
The spotted lanternflies again. Yeah. Yes, Ring, this story. I couldn't ignore this since it was adjacent to a passion of mine. This little girl is an absolute hero, and I think she needs respect, and more people need to be like her in helping combat this. And the fact that this is the response that she gets from the community. Well, at first, this was the response she got from the community, but there's been a lot of support and outreach for her since.
Yeah. Okay. Can I just get your information?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I guess he saw it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Does he not live across the street from me?
And I thought, wow, she did a school class.
Yeah, somebody else helped her. She's
Right.
like, just get the lantern.
Okay.
She's invested.
Oh, she's obviously fine.
We are.
You're obviously next.
She's doing her freaking part to help wipe out the invasive lanternflies. Good grief.
Door neighbors.
Okay.
And by the way, I love her mom's hoodie here, or a cardigan maybe it is. I don't know if it's the black and the red spotted part is one thing, but yeah, it's cute. I like it.
No, you're not in trouble.
How many did you kill? How many trees did you save?
They're bad. It's water. She's catching lanternflies. She said she lives right here. Yeah, she's catching lanternflies. All right.
What a
I'll
weirdo.
see you later.
Why is she a weirdo? It's part of they're an invasive, damaging species. And again, I absolutely encourage everybody in the hive. You see spotted lanternflies, you smash them, you spray them, do what you can. I'm going to pull up some images of them here in a second, but let's let this wind down.
Later.
Racism, intentional or not, is still racism. I'm not here to label anyone, only to share my point of view as a Black woman, a Black mother, and a Black resident in this town.
She was not only doing something amazing for our environment, she was doing something that made her feel like a hero.
And I've there are plenty of, there's a full length of this, but I couldn't find any of it with the little girl's face blurred out, and I'm not about that. Someone wants their kid on camera, I have to get their permission. So, I mean, obviously there's been situations where published material has been released. It has the children's faces on. That's already been signed off on, if I use that under fair use. But since CNN in their depiction here chose to cover her face, it makes me feel like maybe that's what the mother and child are wishing. So I'm going to honor that and not show her the full speech that the sister gives here and that the mother gives here regarding the racism that we're dealing with. But yeah, I do want to just take this from because everyone's approached this from the racial position. But what this goes to show is that community outreach, that people want to help make the world a better place, right? that there are people out there who want to just do good things to do good things. And if things like systematic racism are going to stand in the way of that, stand in the way of bettering our society, systematic racism needs to go. Obviously, it needs to go. I mean, I'm not making a novel claim here. This is something that we've all known for a long time, but nothing punctuates it more than someone doing taking an effort to help stop a destructive pest from spreading, being met by resistance due to the color of their skin. Yeah. All right.
Look who's the boss. A lot of people assume I'm not.
This is a spotted lanternfly, okay? So if you see these bugs, I know they're pretty. I know, they're pretty. They also have little proboscis that suck trees and plants dry, devastate them, and they will swarm plants. So if you see them, well, if I see them, I'm going to catch them and keep them in my collection. But if you see them, squish them. Yeah, if I see them, I'm going to take them into captivity and use them as a teaching tool. But yeah, and I may actually squish one on camera for you to show you that it's okay to do so. But more people need to be like this young lady that we just looked at and do their part to help save the environment and push back against systematic racism in the process. Her mother, and her sister are an inspiration to us all regarding how we should be as members of our society, what steps we can take. These are people that did not have to go she didn't have to go out of her way to send her child out to help her child do this project. She didn't have to. She did it because she wanted to. The little girl wanted to. The mother said, yes, you can do this. You want to be a good person and help the environment. So absolute love for this mindset, and I want everybody else to try their best to maybe emulate it even. So yeah, that's all I have this morning for the HiveScience. A little short segment, but I just wanted to make sure I touched on this. We're moving into winter now, so in the next 4 months from now, we probably going to go over spotted lanternflies again, because I'm not going to stop beating this drum, because we need to be responding as best we can to this threat. Thank you for joining us in Live from the Hive this morning. This has been absolutely fun. We had the exploration of Tartaria and the dinosaurs obviously stomping around the Australian outback. Then we explored the horrific nature of eugenics, circus freak shows, and genetic disorders, and misrepresentation of the scientific understanding of the time. And we wrapped it up with this little ditty about spotted lanternflies. I hope this has been engaging and stimulating. Hope everybody comes back next week, because we are going to continue to decorate the hive for Christmas. So next week you should see some more festive decor hanging around here. Until next time, please remember to be kind and take care. And yeah, we will see you soon.